I was just eating Doritos when 12 cops pointed their weapons at me. I was sitting on my couch at 3 inches the afternoon on a Tuesday, watching cooking videos and eating Cool Ranch Doritos straight from the family size bag. That's when I heard the crash of my front door being kicked in. Before I could even process what was happening, there were police officers flooding into my apartment, 12 of them in tactical gear with weapons drawn, all shouting different commands at once. Get on the ground, hands where I can see them, don't move. I dropped the bag of Doritos and put my hands up, Dorito dust still on my fingers. My brain couldn't catch up to what was happening. I lived alone in a quiet building in a boring neighborhood. I worked data entry for an insurance company. The most illegal thing I'd ever done was pirate a movie in college. 2 officers grabbed my arms and forced me face down on the carpet while someone zip-tied my wrists behind my back. The orange Dorito dust was getting all over their black gloves. I asked what was happening, but nobody answered. They were searching my apartment, opening every drawer and cabinet, pulling out my belongings and piling them on the floor. One officer was taking photos of everything. Another was on his radio, calling for additional units. I watched from the floor as they dismantled my life, still tasting Cool Ranch in my mouth and wondering if I was having some kind of psychotic break. A detective in a gray suit crouched down next to me. His name tag said Foster. He asked if I lived alone, and I said yes, which was technically true now. My roommate Tyler had moved out 6 weeks ago after living here for almost a year. Foster asked when I'd last seen Tyler, and I said maybe 3 weeks ago when he'd stopped by to grab some mail. Foster's expression changed. He asked if Tyler had left anything behind, and I said just some boxes in the storage closet that he was supposed to pick up. Suddenly, there were 4 officers in my hallway, opening that closet. I heard one of them curse and call for the detective. Foster stood up and walked over while I stayed zip-tied on my living room floor, surrounded by my scattered belongings and crushed Doritos. Looking back now, I should have paid more attention to the strange things that had been happening. Tyler had always been a little off, working odd hours and never really explaining what he did for work. He'd say something vague about consulting or freelancing and change the subject. In those last few months before he moved out, he'd started getting packages. Lots of packages. Small boxes with no return addresses that he'd immediately take to his room. Once I'd seen one sitting on the kitchen counter, plain brown packaging with just our address printed on a plain white label. No company name, no sender information. When I'd asked Tyler about it, he'd gotten weirdly defensive and said it was just supplements he ordered online. He'd grabbed the box and disappeared into his room. The visitors started around the same time. People would show up at odd hours, usually late at night. They'd knock in this specific pattern, 3 quick raps followed by 2 slow ones. Tyler would let them in and they'd go straight to his room. I'd hear low voices through the walls, but could never make out words. One night I'd gotten up to use the bathroom and saw one of the visitors leaving. He was wearing a suit at 2 inches the morning and carrying a small duffel bag. He'd made eye contact with me in the hallway, and his expression had been cold, calculating, like he was assessing whether I was a problem. Tyler had stood in his doorway behind him, watching me. I'd gone back to my room without saying anything. Then Tyler announced he was moving out, said he'd found a better place, gave me a month's notice, and started packing. He'd been gone within 2 weeks, leaving faster than he'd planned. I'd been relieved, honestly. Living with him had become uncomfortable in ways I couldn't quite articulate. Foster came back into the living room. His face was grim. He asked if I had any knowledge of what was in those boxes in my storage closet. I said no, that they were Tyler's stuff, and I'd never opened them. That's when Foster told me what they'd found, and why there were 12 officers with weapons drawn in my apartment. The rest of the story is on my channel or linked below.